We're going to talk about what sugar does to your body, why we start and can't stop eating it, why we have these cravings, and how to transform those cravings so you can kick the sugar habit for good. Hey Luke, hey Lisa, thanks for joining us. I just started, so what people are doing is just commenting their favorite dessert. And so how did I end up here giving you a talk about sugar? Like, it's got to have some connection to me, right? So right now I'm able to enjoy any sugar or food that I like whenever I want to without worrying about what it's going to do to my body, without overeating, without having cravings that I can't satisfy, and without jeopardizing my body. But it was not always this way. So I used to overeat and binge just about every single day. And I'd also eat anything and everything, especially with sugar. When I started eating it, I could not stop until my stomach hurt. And because of this, I had digestive issues. I'd get really bad acne on my face. And I'd also get really bad rosacea, which is what I was most self-conscious about, which is like redness and bumps on the face. And it would get so bad that I would look in the mirror at myself and say, "You're ugly, you look like crap, no one wants to talk to you." And at that point, I'd say, well, I already look like crap, I already feel like crap, I might as well just keep eating because it does not matter at this point, right? So instead of being happy and smiling throughout the day without not being energetic and confident, instead I was depressed. I was angry, tired, moody, frustrated, and I was missing out on so many experiences and relationships and opportunities, which I hate when that happens, if you know me at all. So how did this happen to me? How was I in this spot? I definitely wasn't being the best version of myself, and I knew that. So, like I said, I knew something had to change, and that's when I discovered something that did make a difference. And at first I was skeptical, thinking that it wouldn't work for me, but once I applied it to myself, I was able to follow through in a way that I haven't been able to before. So within 2 weeks, my face had cleared up dramatically. I didn't look like I was sunburned in the winter, which was the worst when someone said that to me. But I had more energy. I had more joy, more humor, more confidence. I felt attractive. And most importantly, I began to love my body and my face. And it wasn't difficult. There wasn't any more negative self-talk. There wasn't any more missing out on experiences and relationships because I felt ugly and frustrated. And at this point, I even started getting compliments. People would say that, "You look great. Like, how are you making this happen? Let me know." And people would tell me, "When I eat, I just can't stop." Or, "I have to have something sweet after every meal because that's just how I grew up. That's what I do. It's never not been that way." And there's so many things that people would tell me. So that's when I developed something called the Feel Great and Have Confidence program. And this is just to teach people how to kick the sugar habit without giving up sweetness, without deprivation. And at first it was for some family and then for some friends, but now I've actually had clients work with me and successfully kick sugar and experience how awesome it is to feel great and have confidence. So what I want to do today is show you the exact steps that I taught then and on how you can also feel great and have confidence. No matter how far off track you've fallen, no matter if you've never been able to do it before. So you're in the right place if you're watching and you've wondered why you crave sugar at certain times. You're done reinventing the wheel or going on Google to figure out what works and what doesn't. You just want someone to tell you what does and have it be right. And you want to discover what's keeping you so stuck so you can get unstuck, because you got to know why you're stuck in the first place. And you're ready to finally get this sugar thing handled so you can allow your best self to shine and so you can love yourself. So if these describe you in any way, then you're in exactly the right place. And if this is you, it's no accident that we're together, because today I want to show you how to kick the sugar habit without giving up sweetness so you can experience feeling great and having confidence and control that gives you your best body and your best moods. So since we have a limited amount of time, like I said, I want to provide as much value as possible about our topic today. And then I promise before I check off, I want to show you how to take it a step further if you'd like to. So let's get into it. The first challenge that my clients, myself, and most people have when they try to kick sugar is figuring out why we crave sugar in the first place, why those cravings are out of control, and what to do about it. So let's solve that. Hey, Giselle? So traditional nutritionists usually think of food just in calories, proteins, fats, and carbs. But as a health coach, that's only one way that I like looking at food. The other way is something really cool. I don't know if many of you have heard of it before, but the concept is called the polarity of food. Okay, what does that mean? The concept of polarity is pretty simple. It's based on the principle that everything has two polarities or extremes. So for example, hot and cold are extremes on the pole called temperature. It's the same way with every apparent opposite. Soft and hard, noisy and quiet, good and bad. When you find one thing, you'll always find the potential for this opposite. So if you're looking at the world through the lens of polarity, it's dark and light, night and day, male and female. That's the concept. So how does that apply to food? First, we want to consider that food is more than simply fuel for our body. It actually has qualities inside of it that are beyond the science and mechanics of calories, fat grams, and nutrient values. For example, leafy greens grow upward, so they have a lifting energy, whereas root vegetables like a potato or a squash are growing deep into the ground, so they have a grounding energy. So what does the polarity of the rest of the food look like? Where does the inherent quality of different foods fall on this spectrum? And how might this polarity that you have in the food actually be creating your cravings? Hey, Amanda. So I want to show this handout right here, and I will be sending this to you as well, just so you can recap on it. So right over here, you're going to see expansive foods. It says expansive bliss. So foods that represent this energy are represented in alcohol, caffeine, sugar, and to some extent fruit. These are foods that are going to make you feel light, relaxed, and happy, blissful. But when you eat too many of these bliss foods, you're going to start to feel spacey and maybe even a little forgetful. So then on the other extreme are the contracted tension foods. Okay? These foods are contracting versus expansive. Examples of these foods are salt, eggs, red meat. These are the kinds of foods that put meat on your bones. They make you feel grounded, focused, aggressive. And when you eat too many of these, you might feel really tight, agitated, maybe even a little angry. So that's all fine and good. But how do these two extremes or polarities of food relate to cravings? So if life is a system of opposites and your body naturally wants to balance itself out, which is called homeostasis, what do you think happens when you're having too many contracted foods like salt, meat, and eggs? What do you think your body might crave to balance itself out? It's going to crave the opposite. It'll crave the sweet, expansive bliss foods and drinks as well. So do you find that if you have something salty, hey Charlie, do you find like if you have something salty like potato chips, you crave something sweet afterwards? That's the challenge. If we have too many contracted foods, we'll crave the expansive. And if we have too many expansive foods, we're going to crave the contractive. So what many people don't realize is that we're the ones that are creating our cravings unknowingly. But this is my favorite part, and I'm glad whoever just jumped on is here for this part, because you can even look at the activities in your life through this lens of polarity of expansive and contractive activities. And there's crossover between food and activities. So there are things in your life that are more contractive. They're going to create tension, stress. And then there are things that are more expansive. They create relaxation. Examples of these contractive activities are chores, working too much, studying, staying up late, stressing, planning. And then here's where the crossover happens. When you have too many of these contractive activities that I just mentioned, you're going to crave more expansive foods because you need relaxation. If you don't allow yourself to relax, then you're going to find yourself binging on wine, chocolate, bread, desserts, but your body's really just begging for a break. It's begging for sleep, reading, meditation, walking, taking a bath, whatever that is to you. So for example, if you've been driving in awful traffic all morning, your toddler was a nightmare getting ready, you've had a stressful day at work, what are you going to crave when you get home? Sweets and a martini, probably. Expansive foods. This craving is just your body trying to balance itself out again. So when I work with clients to deconstruct their cravings, we're not just focusing on the foods that they're eating, but also their lifestyle. Because the crossover is the most important part. So I have an example of a client who, she owned a business and would fill up her schedule so full that her lunch break would usually consist of her eating at the desk while she was working on current tasks while thinking about what she's going to do after work, and then thinking about what she has to do the next morning. And so there was this endless cycle of stress and contractive activities. And so she'd find herself binging on anything and everything that the office had in the fridge, or people would bring in sweets, which is very common right now during the holiday season. But the thing is, she didn't even realize that she was doing it. She was having these cravings, her body was working to balance herself out, but she was only giving herself enough time to have a quick fix and eat those expansive foods. But once she actually balanced out her day, she didn't have those cravings anymore. She didn't want the donuts and the cookies and everything that people brought into the office. And she was actually more focused, more productive at work when she gave herself enough time and thought to do everything. Really, really cool. So the first challenge, to recap, is understanding how we are creating our cravings in the first place. Not just with the foods we're eating, but the activities we're giving ourselves time to do. Okay, the second challenge around kicking sugar is that no one wants to do it, actually, because it feels so good to eat it, right? We're the ones who, in the end, make the choice. But why does it feel so good? I want to go into a little bit of physiology to understand it more. And so let's take a quick look at what's happening when you eat sugar and why we experience the awesome sugar high. So products containing a lot of sugar, besides fruit, usually don't contain lots of fiber, fat, or protein. The fiber, the fat, and the protein slow down the sugar absorption. So when those nutrients are not present, your blood sugar is going to shoot up really fast, like to the top of a roller coaster. Okay, so now we're at the top of the roller coaster. Your brain is alerted because your brain uses about 50% of your blood sugar at any given time. So any drastic rise and fall in blood sugar causes your brain to flip out. You're on a high, but it's also spiked, so your brain and your body aren't too happy because it seems like an emergency. So what does your body naturally do? Your pancreas secretes the hormone insulin to bring your blood sugar back down. But here's the problem. We have spent a lifetime of eating so many high sugar processed products, especially if you grew up in the 70s and the 80s. So insulin has gotten really good at its job. So when the insulin is sent out during that blood sugar high, it doesn't just bring your blood sugar back down to balance, it brings it too far down. And that's when you dip down, that's when you feel shaky, spaced out, uncomfortable, confused, headaches. So when you've had that crash, what is your body going to crave again to balance itself out? Because it's all about balance. More sugar. It's the fastest way to balance out the blood sugar crash. And so we go up and down on this roller coaster of eating sugar. Has anyone experienced that? How does that feel? Not very enjoyable, and I definitely have experienced that. So this is one of the reasons why we start eating sugar and quite literally can't stop, because we're craving it constantly. All your body's trying to do is balance itself out. And so the sugar craving is your body's way of saying, hey, quick fix, let's do it, let's eat that. It's the easiest and most convenient when your blood sugar's low. But if we keep eating sugar, we're just gonna stay on that roller coaster. And it's not only gonna affect what you're eating, but also your mood. It causes weight gain. It can lead to serious diseases like adult onset diabetes. And now there's more to the story. So after insulin is sent out, it can take that excess sugar to 3 places while it's in the bloodstream. It can take it to the blood cells, it can take it to your brain, and it can take it to your muscles. But if all those places are already filled up with sugar because you've been on this roller coaster and eating it, there's only one more place that it can take it, and that's into storage as excess fat. But not only that, when insulin is also sent out, the hormone glucagon can't be secreted. Glucagon is what takes the sugar out of your fat stores, or takes the fat out of storage to be burned. Okay? So when you're eating sugar, not only are you probably storing a lot of it as fat, but glucagon isn't produced, so you can't take that fat out of storage to burn it. So it's a double whammy. Whew. And these days, there's one more thing with this roller coaster. So these days, many health conscious people know that their blood sugar levels are gonna go up and down on this roller coaster, but they don't often realize that there's also an emotional roller coaster that's right along with it. Okay, so your blood sugar is going up and down. You feel happy and energetic for a short while as you're going up, and then suddenly, unexplainably, we're arguing with our friend or our spouse, or beating ourselves up in our mind. We don't want to go work out. Our moods are all over the place. Has anyone experienced that? This emotional roller coaster is right alongside your blood sugar roller coaster, and that's where it's coming from. So the second challenge is being stuck on the blood sugar roller coaster. Third challenge, not as long. Third and final challenge with kicking sugar that I have experienced and I notice with all of my clients is that when you're not happy with one area of your life, like your career, your relationships, your finances, your workouts, your family, where you live, the winter weather, it's sometimes so much easier to deal with these problems by reaching for sugar, reaching for food, than to actually deal with what's going on, right? And I totally get that. Much, much easier. In fact, I want to share with you what happened to one of my clients. She had been struggling with self-loathing and body image for over 30 years and just not being able to love herself. There was also family deaths, major illnesses, stressors in her life, and it was so much easier for her to bottle it up and then connect with her family with food. She found her happiness in food and sugar personally and with her family. And so, hey Suave, it had become comfortable and the norm for her to have intimacy with her spouse over food. And it's hard when that happens. And she also provided for her family in a way that they enjoyed, the food that they enjoyed, but she also knew it was wrong in the back of her head. But it was easier, and she enjoyed the food too because it tastes so good. So that third challenge is, if you have unhappiness or stress in one area of your life that's undealt with, it can show up in cravings because it's a quick fix to feel good when we can't actually get ourselves to take on the real problem. So the cravings that you're having, they may seem like a pain. They may be frustrating, but what if cravings are just a messenger to help you step into the best version of who you are? That would be pretty amazing. Then they wouldn't be so bad. So I want to get into the solutions now. You didn't just come here for the problems, you came here for the solutions. So let's look at how to get started on kicking sugar without starving yourself, without deprivation or giving up the sweetness, even if you've never done it before or you've been stuck in the rut for a long time. So you don't have to write these down if you don't want to, because I do have them written down for you and I can get those to you immediately after this. So I have them all written down for you. I'll just list them out, so just know that they're there and take these in. First solution is to check your beverages. You may have heard this before, or it may sound crazy, but sometimes sweet cravings are just a sign of dehydration. So just pound a glass of water, just water, wait 5 minutes and see if you still have the craving. Also, too much caffeine is going to mimic the blood sugar crash for a lot of people because you're high for a little bit and then you come crashing down. And again, to balance yourself out, your body will crave the quick fix of sugar. And this was actually big for one of my clients. She had, by her own motivation, she switched from soda to water throughout the day. And then she never had those cravings for all the holiday treats that were brought into her office anymore. Something really simple just like that. First solution, check your beverages. Second solution is to satisfy your sweet tooth with sweet vegetables, fruits, and spices. So your tongue does have sweet buds and they demand to be satisfied. So don't hold out on them, because hurting to heal never makes sense. Deprivation does not work. It's a short-term fix. So add naturally sweet foods to what you're eating, to your diet, like squash, yams, carrots, beets, berries, figs, apples, cinnamon, coriander, nutmeg, honey. There's tons of options. So satisfy that sweet tooth. Third solution is sleep. For many of us, a lot easier said than done. You have your schedule, you have your kids, babies, I get that. But if you're constantly tired, you need to focus on this, because if you're constantly tired, your body is going to look for energy, usually in the form of sugar and caffeine, because it's the fastest way to feel better, to have more energy. So the one tip I can give you with this is to power down an hour earlier than usual if you can, or half an hour earlier, and notice how your cravings will disappear. What I mean by a power down hour is the last hour before you go to bed should be very, very relaxing. Things that relax you, not me. For me, it would be stretching, maybe yoga, maybe reading a book, doing a devotion. That's what I would do. The main tip I have in regards to that, at least just put your phone away for the last hour if you can. Third solution is sleep. It's a big one. Fourth solution is to check your protein. So watch how much protein you're eating and what kind of protein you're eating, especially animal protein. So if you like mostly eating animal protein, this is a fun, cool fact. So eating too little animal protein can actually lead to massive sweet cravings, if that's part of your diet. And eating too little or too much animal protein can lead to some sweet cravings. So when I work with clients, and when you work with your own body, figuring out what you need, you got to find the right amount of protein and the right kind of protein so that you feel satisfied without having cravings as a result of that. Okay. Fourth solution, check your protein. Fifth solution is to sniff out low-fat and fat-free foods. A lot of us probably know this by now, but when food manufacturers are taking out fat from foods just to make it a low-fat item, they have to replace that, and they usually replace it with sugar. So just be aware of that. Sixth solution is to move yourself. Movement is another kind of wonderful food for your body. And it fuels us. It releases our stress. It makes you feel great. It makes you look great. It makes you feel confident, outgoing. And when you don't get enough movement or activity, your body starts to look for different ways to release tension and relax and blow off steam. And you can get that sort of satisfaction for 2 minutes from a Snickers bar. And so a lot of people go that route. The main thing with movement, it can be anything. You do not have to go to the gym. You don't have to have a gym membership. If you like walking your dog every day, do that. If you like swimming, hiking, running, rolling on the ground, whatever you want, activity is activity. Movement is so good for you. Sixth solution is to move your body. Seventh solution is to create new post-meal rituals. So if you're a dessert after the meal person and you've done that your whole life, you're used to that, that's what you crave because it's a habit, you can actually just change this ritual. You can change it by adding an activity to replace that post-meal ritual. So you still have the ritual and you have something that you enjoy and relaxes you in the same way, but it's going to be like going for a walk, having a devotion after the meal. Awesome ways to have that same feeling of having something sweet after a meal. So have some fun, be creative with this. It's personal to you. If you like going for a walk, if you like having a devotion, then do that or come up with something else. And eighth and final solution I want to give you is this is going back to the polarity. Fulfill your sweetness cravings with expansive activities. There's crossover here, and that's the most important point I want you to understand. Make a list of things that relax you or things that you really enjoy and use those activities to satisfy your cravings, to relax and feel good, because it actually works. Especially if you take a step back and realize if you're not hungry but you want food, your body's craving relaxation. It's not craving that food. And you can give that to your body. Just be creative, be happy to find expansive activities that you enjoy. Awesome. Main point that I want you to grab from this. and I can get those solutions to you right after this. If you like, comments, or if you want to share, that's how I know that you were here, or if it says that you're watching after this, I can send those your way. And now I'm going to tell you how to turn this immediately useful information into lasting transformation. So to take it a step further if you want to, as I said I was going to do. So who here feels like they're 100% confident that right now they could walk away from this talk or these solutions that I gave you and kick sugar once and for all and never have to worry about it again? You can comment if you want to. You're welcome, Alex. I'm assuming that not 100% of you, or even any of you, are 100% confident that you can handle this for good. And I just did a live talk of this, and none of them raised their hands. So for the sake of that, I'm just going to assume that you're not completely confident on it. Well, that's because I actually left out 3 key components that puts all of this together. Without these 3 key components, we stay in the same patterns and the same rut that keep us stuck. Some of us might do well for a little while. We get some new information, we re-motivate ourselves. January 1st coming up, we have resolutions and goals. We commit to following through, and we start following through, and then we fall off track. And this time, it's going to be different, is what we say. But again, our motivation fizzles out, we fall off track. So how many people actually know what to do but don't follow through with it? Most of us. That's because knowing isn't enough. We are suffering from a high-fact diet. We have all the information and knowledge we could ever want. We've got tons of theory and information. What works for you, all these diets and plans coming at us, but we're not putting these things into practice. So the 3 key components that actually bring about success are the right system, so the right steps in the right order, support, which is encouragement, a friend. The third is accountability. Having someone to push you further than what you're comfortable with, to stretch you and kick you in the butt when you need it. Because we have the information. You don't need more information. What we do need to make this time different is someone to encourage our progress, someone to keep us on track towards our goals and kick us in the butt when we need it. So, since none of you are enthusiastically ready to get off the sugar roller coaster and kick the sugar habit by yourself, I'd love to invite you to have a feel great and have confidence breakthrough session with me. And it's a 45-minute private session, one-on-one, where we'll look at what your cravings mean, why you're stuck and how to get unstuck, and what your plan of action is to experience a total transformation in the kick the sugar habit. If you invest that 45 minutes of your time, I guarantee you'll walk away with at least one major takeaway that'll help you break out of your rut and get into action. So again, I want to invite you to open up to the possibility that this time can be different, that you haven't yet tried everything, and that even those of you who are relatively healthy might be missing out on something really big that could make it better, that could bring you into the best version of yourself. So it's an opportunity to get curious about how healthy you can be. I want to just mention one of my clients. She had the most awesome quote. She came to me with an endless cycle of binge eating, depression. She'd start to break out of it, and then she'd fall right back into it. The binge eating and the self-loathing along with it. She tried to explain away that depression and these thoughts as just hormones that she couldn't control. And she tried different techniques, psychology techniques to cope or get out of the state of binging. Judgment was always there. It was her constant companion. So there was no escape. Knowing there had to be a way, she worked with me, and she wanted to just deal with the binge eating so that she could focus on the emotional struggles without worrying about the food part. But what she got instead was a complete transformation. So this is her quote. I'll just read it to you. I wanted to be coached so that I could overcome my struggle with binge eating. I figured that would be my true key to happiness. But because of my time with Amos, I feel invincible. I feel resilient. He taught me a true happiness that I am going to keep for the rest of my life. Overcoming binge eating was just a side effect. I am actually able to wake up and say I'm confident and truly feel it. Beautiful. I absolutely love that. And so that's why I wanted to share that with you. And what makes this program unique is that we focus on what you get to have, not what you don't get to have. We don't just focus on the food, but we focus on your life. Focus on making it a lasting change. And suffering to heal doesn't make sense. Never has, it never will. Dieting, supplements, all that stuff might work short term, but it's deprivation. And so I want this to be enjoyable and fun and sustainable, because that's the only way that we can make this different than any other time. So it's for your unique body, for your unique lifestyle. So I get to be part cheerleader, part tough love coach, support and accountability. Two components that are proven to make the difference between staying stuck and breaking out of a rut for good. So if you're ready for some accountability and the system and the support that are going to make this work like nothing else, then I want to invite you to do a Feel Great and Have Confidence breakthrough session with me. And again, it's a 45-minute session where we'll look at what your cravings mean, why you're stuck and how to get unstuck, and what your plan of action is to feel great and have confidence. I guarantee you'll walk away with at least one major takeaway with how to break out of the rut and get into action right now.